As a UX designer, there are many things to keep in mind when developing and creating the site's user experience. Here are some of the do's and don'ts that we should keep in mind. A first must-do is to include and encourage discussions within the whole team. It's very important to make sure your entire product team is involved in the development process. All of the workplace team members have different perspectives and input on what makes a great site experience. And having a group with different levels of experience with creative input will make your site even better. It is also important to make sure that the user's experience tells a story that is relatable to them. Creating a story that speaks to the user's emotions through both analogies and personal narrative that can provide a way of people to feel connected to what you have to say. You can tell a story in many different ways other than dialogue and text. You can always use images, interactive designs, and many more. The possibilities are endless. Another tip is to use the eye tracking technique. Eye tracking, the study of the eye's motion across a web page, can be a great tool to take in consideration for your user experience. The F pattern is an example of a strategy being used in eye tracking. It shows how users typically scan online articles through 2 horizontal eye movements and 1 vertical look. This has been proven to be a successful way of keeping users focused on the content that is most important. You also have to make sure that your website is responsive. Make sure that your site is properly rendered on different devices. Better yet is to have it optimized to use the advantages of each of the different formats. The last tip is to test your site on actual users. The only way to fully see how effective your site is to do some testing on actual users and gather their responses, comments, and suggestions with their experience. This is important since they may view your site differently than you might think, and this might even lead to some new learnings and better ways to improve your site. It is also important to remember that UX design is not a one-size-fits-all. We should keep in mind that a user's experience design won't work in every situation for every user. As human beings, we are all different. Remember that what works for one person may have the opposite effect on another. It is also important to note that the design must be tailored to the goals, values, production process, and products of the website. Now that we've talked about the different things that we should do, let's talk about the things that we should avoid doing. Firstly, don't directly assess the UX design with traditional metrics. It's important to remember that you can determine the effectiveness of a user experience design based solely on statistics such as page views, bounce rates, and conversion rates. Also, don't confuse the user experience and the usability as the same thing. Keep in mind that those two are completely different things. User experience addresses how a user feels when using a system, while usability is about the user-friendliness and efficiency of the interface. Another tip is to don't obsess over features. Eclectic features may do wonders to make your site fun and engaging, but you must remember that without a solid base built of intuitive user experience, your site may fall flat with users who expect a certain level of development. Do not be afraid to take risks. Think outside the box. Don't be afraid to try different things, and be open to different challenge trends and embrace the UX design aesthetics from other visual fields like art, architecture, or industrial designs in your work. Don't forget the user's journey. It's important to keep in consideration the user's perspective and experiences. Put yourself in their place as you check the site. Start with a landing page, then slowly think like a user as you make your way through each page, carefully monitoring each potential outcome from a user's perspective. Don't sacrifice good design to corporate oversight. It's great to have an open relationship with clients, and it's also important for designers to work towards a general idea of what the site should become. But too much oversight in the UX design stage can lead to a number of internal flaws, often best left to the designers. As a UX evaluator, you should be able to point out both the good and the bad in a UX design and give constructive criticisms. Here are the basic do's and don'ts that a UX evaluator should keep in mind. Point out both the good ones and the bad ones from the design. This will help the UX designer to know what needs to be changed and the things that they can keep and improve. Use your expertise and knowledge to help identify and point out potential issues. You must use your expertise to observe and analyze the design in order to prevent further issues if there are any. Make sure that the author has credentials. You must be on the lookout for possible copyright issues and plagiarisms or improper and illegal usage from a content in the site. This is important to keep in mind while evaluating to help the creator realize their mistake and save them from being sued for plagiarism. Make sure the information being given are factual and are updated content. As the UX evaluator, it is also your job to make sure to check if the information in the site are factual and up to date. You also have to check if the contents are understandable and sensible. Now that we've explained the different things you should be on the lookout for, let's now talk about the big no-nos as a UX evaluator. Don't be vague and insulting. As an evaluator, you must be able to point out the things clearly and make sure you explain what's wrong so they can fix what must be fixed. Second, don't do the evaluation by yourself. You have to make sure that you don't do the evaluation on your own. You must ask other evaluators for a different perspective. Doing so alone may result to you missing a number of issues. Also, don't be afraid to give recommendations. Recommendations and suggestions are very helpful and are highly encouraged. Just make sure that the things you recommend are sensible and will truly help with the development. Lastly, don't be biased. Observe both the good and the bad while evaluating. Don't focus only on the bad or the other. It's important to maintain balance and to always keep yourself unbiased.